We will be starting in just a minute here.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
I want Magpie's background.
You may have to go to Ghana for that.
Jan bhai, how's the Caliphate of New York?
Assalamu alaikum. We will get started with Tilawat by Murabbi Hashir Ahmed Saib.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum assalam.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الذي خلقني فهو يهدين والذي هو يطعمني ويسقين وإذا مرضت فهو يشفين والذي يميتني ثم يحيين والذي أطمع أن يغفر لي خطيئتي يوم الدين رب هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين واجعل لي لسان صدق في الآخرين واجعلني من ورثة جنة النعيم. I'll now present the English translation of the verses recited from the Holy Quran, taken from chapter 26, Surah Ash-Shu'ara, verses 79 to 86. In the name of Allah, the Gracious, the Ever Merciful, who has created me, and it is He who guides me, and who gives me food and gives me drink. And when I am ill, it is He who restores me to health, and who will cause me to die, and then bring me to life again. And who, I hope, will forgive me my faults on the day of judgment. My Lord, bestow wisdom on me, and join me with the righteous, and give me a true reputation among posterity, and make me one of the inheritors of the garden of bliss. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah Murabbi Saab. I'm going to share a few things. My name is Muhammad Ahmed Chaudhry. I have the blessed opportunity to serve as the Secretary Sanat Tijarat. Wanted to share the overall, what is the goal of Sanat Tijarat that you can look on the screen. It really says to persuade, and as a key word here, to persuade members of Jamaat to involve themselves more and more into industry and trade. So in that light, we are having webinars and various other programs to encourage members to join industry and trade and have their own businesses versus working for others. And today is no different in our panel today. If we can go to the next screen. You can visit the website at Sanat Tijarat. I'd also wanted to encourage all members to register with our Jamaat site of Member 360. On this page, you can see there's a portal. You can register your business. And so we have a business directory in there, and you can register your job, current vocation as well. So we have a robust database that we can share with individuals. Well, Sanat Tijarat's main focus is not jobs. We do have a web address where we will respond to those members who need assistance with securing a job. And lastly, if you want to share um, and follow us on LinkedIn in particular, if you go there, there's AMC USA Industry and Trade page. So if you go there, that's for Ahmadis only. There's over 1,000 members there, encouraging everyone else to join. Follow us on social media. Two things I want to make clear. One of the goals of Sanat Tijarat is to assist in intra-Amity commerce, and you can work with your local Sanat Tijarat secretary who can explain that to you more. And we'd like to encourage more commerce within Amities and as Amities members start new businesses. That's a quick overview on what's going on in the department. With that, I will transition to our panel today, which is going to be moderated by Amit Chaudhry Sahib. Amit Chaudhry Sahib attended medical school at Harvard Medical School because he did not get into Rawalpindi Medical School, which he will introduce later. He currently is an oral surgeon in Lehigh Valley and has, alhamdulillah, successfully worked through a full startup of a business and going all the way to an exit. So Amit Chaudhry Saab will be moderating this panel and will introduce the rest of the panel. Amit Bhai, over to you.
Jazakallah, Makpai. Thank you for the opportunity for presenting this very important topic of the business of healthcare. And I'm joined with by three very esteemed physicians and dentists. First, I would like to introduce Dr. Amir Malik, who is a neurosurgeon at North Texas Orthopedic and Spine. He did go to the Punjab University in Rawalpindi Medical School. And following that, he came to the US and trained at multiple institutions, including doing his neurosurgery residency at Temple University. And over his career, he has held many clinical positions in academics as well as private practice. So he's going to shed a bit of the comparing and contrasting the two types of healthcare positions of private practice as well as academics. We're also joined by Dr. Irfan Aladdin, who is a pain management specialist and the founder of Accelerated Rehab and Pain Management. He is board certified in physical medicine, pain management, and pain medicine. And he has multiple practices across the Northeast in the New York, New Jersey area. So he'll be able to tell us about how to grow your business from a single office into multiple offices and what it takes to actually do that. And finally, we're joined by my brother, Dr. Asad Chaudhry, who is a general dentist in New Jersey, as well as Pennsylvania. He attended NYU College of Dentistry and then started his private practice, first in Pennsylvania and now is currently in Central Jersey. So Jazakallah, all of you, for joining, and Jazakallah for all the people joining this webinar as well. I want to just start off by saying that healthcare is a huge part of the US economy. It is almost a $5 trillion part of the economy and accounts for almost 20% of the GDP, and it is growing. And so there are many, many opportunities, especially with new technologies, with AI, and so forth, for people to get into this. Now, there are certainly clinical opportunities, such as becoming a physician or a dentist, but there are many non-clinical avenues as well. Everything from becoming an administrator, billing, insurance teams, IT, compliance staff, the list goes on and on. Just like you need a full staff to run any type of business, you certainly need all of those type of staff members and expertise to run a successful healthcare business. But today we've got physicians, and so they're going to talk to you from the business side and a clinical focus of how they got started and how they built their businesses from the ground up. So I'd like to start off by asking Dr. Irfan Aladdin, as well as all the other panelists, but we'll start with Dr. Aladdin. Tell us about your journey after you finished your training. How did you start, and where have you progressed to during that journey?
So I graduated actually also New Jersey University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey in Newark, Rutgers University. And I then went into fellowship in pain management. So I graduated internal medicine and physical medicine and rehabilitation, then went into pain management. And to get the fellowship, rather than just apply for a fellowship, I applied for a job at the same time so I could learn private practice while doing the fellowship. And that propelled me forward much more quickly. And then, as I was doing both of these, I had my contacts from residency, and a lot of the physicians, even though as a resident, I would network, and they said, "Dr. Al, when you finish, make sure you come visit me in my office. We'd love to have you over there." And that way, I would rent spaces from internal medicine doctors, orthopedists, family medicine, and then they would refer patients, and I would also do my own marketing to try to bring patients into the practice. And that's how I grew these satellite offices eventually, and trying not to overspend and buy buildings and stuff in the beginning, because spend out what we have provided. I would do it slowly as I would gather some wealth. You pay your chandas and then put the rest into buying some buildings, and then make your own permanent or long-standing offices, let's say. And then from there, from the offices, as we had more and more patients, mashallah, then I would try to bring in the patients to a surgical center, because I saw that when you bring it to the patient to the surgical center, the person who owns that center is the one who does well, and the other one is kind of just more like not a lackey, but he's very dependent on that person. So that way, then you buy the surgical centers, and then after that, pharmacy, MRI center, a laboratory, because you have to test the urine toxicology for the patients in pain management. They take opioids, benzodiazepines. So then, in that way, you can have all these other ancillary services, and including durable medical equipment, and then expand in that way.
Jazakallah. And we'll get more into all the different types of jobs and professionals that you need to actually build something out like that. Dr. Amr Malik, can you tell us now? You had a very different kind of trajectory. You went into academics first, I believe. Can you tell us about kind of where you started and where you've kind of gone from there?
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Yes, I'll be more than happy to discuss what my trajectory was. But Ahmed Bhai, you did not introduce yourself. I understand you yourself have a very distinguished background and career. So all of us would like to hear more about that, and then I'll say a little about what I did starting out.
No, Jazakallah. I went to dental school actually at Harvard, and then did my oral and maxillofacial surgery training, as well as my medical school at SUNY Stony Brook. And once I had completed that, I went into private practice, initially in New York City, and then eventually moved to Pennsylvania and opened up my own practice over there back in 2013. And over the course of the next 10 years, we built that practice out to 2 locations, 4 surgeons, and kind of really a good thriving practice that I was very happy with. And then I actually transitioned out of owning the practice and joined kind of private equity, and that's something we'll discuss as well. And so I sold the practice about 2 years ago. I'm still clinically working as an oral surgeon, same practice, doing everything the same clinically, but I just don't have all the headaches of owning a practice right now. So that's kind of my story, and inshallah, we'll get more into that as well.
Jazakallah. Very, very distinguished, mashallah, without a doubt. So my trajectory is obviously very different. I did medical school back home in Pakistan, and at that time it was we had to pass our boards, to get into a U.S. residency. So I started off by doing 1 year of internal medicine in La Crosse, Wisconsin. That helped me land a position at the University of Washington in Seattle, which at that time used to be called a pre-residency fellowship. So people like us who wanted to get into neurosurgery would get into a big name program. And at that point, University of Washington in Seattle probably was one of the 3 top neurosurgery programs. So I worked with the who's who of neurosurgery for about 3 years. I was the lowest man on the totem pole. I was the one who took the urine specimens to the lab, kind of thing. And that allowed me to, obviously through prayers of my parents and the Khulafa during all this time, to land a residency position at Temple. So I'd already done about 3 years of neurosurgery, Temple 7 years. When I graduated, I took on my first academic role as a junior attending at University of Texas in Houston. Stayed there for about 7 years and then went into private practice and stayed in Houston up until, I would say, the end of COVID, which was October of 2021. COVID, because I'd gone into private practice, I'd gone into solo practice, hit the solo practitioners pretty hard, especially in the medical center in Houston, where most of the hospitals were kind of converted into COVID centers. And private practice came to a standstill. So the overheads continued to pile up, but practice was not where it was prior to COVID, which made me, make certain tough choices, whether to get employed or to be part of a group, which is what I decided to do and ended up translocating to Dallas. And that's where I am now with a group of orthopedic surgeons. I'm the only neurosurgeon in the group.
Got it. Jazakallah. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. Dr. Asad Chaudhry, if you can tell us about kind of, you've had a path that's slightly different than the other two. Can you tell us about, what happened with you after your training and where you are now?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me on this panel. Yeah, my path after dental school was I worked a few years in Manhattan as an associate for the Hotel Workers Union. They had a facility for doctors and dentists where union workers would only go to the facility that the union had employed dentists and doctors with. So I was there for about 3-4 years, built up my speed. After that, I looked for an associateship and I found one in central New Jersey. So when I joined that associateship, it was one senior dentist and he had another associate, so I was the second one. And with that, as I worked there for a couple of years, then he was looking to retire in about 5-6 years. So he offered me a partnership to see if I wanted to buy into the partnership, the office, and then, a couple of years down the road, own the whole practice. So that was something new to me at the time. And I said, look, that seemed like a good idea. So I explored that and we pursued it further. So as the contracts started to be drawn up, my attorney pointed out that he still wants to maintain 51% control of the practice, which they said, technically you're 50-50 partners, but if he's 51%, then he can overrule you in any decision. And he was, older dentist, older style dentistry. I had just graduated, so I had, new ideas and new materials, new technology that I wanted to use. So that, we were pursuing it back and forth, but unfortunately that didn't work out. He had actually sold the practice to another associate, which was a surprise to me. And then that was really like a shock to me because I was well vested into, just buying this practice and never looked at any other, opportunities for business. But, as Allah closes one door, He opens more. So as a result of that one door that was closed, I looked into either buying a practice or possibly working an associate somewhere else or starting my own. So ultimately, I settled on, starting my own practice. There was a new medical facility being built 5 minutes from our house. So, I got that property there and then started my own office. In the beginning, it was, kind of difficult. We had just had our first child also. And then, financially, it was difficult because now you're starting a new practice from pretty much zero. And what I did was I worked a few days at the new practice, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, and then ultimately, quit my associateship and I was full-time at my own practice. While at my own practice, I still wanted to have another practice. So I was continuously looking for other practices that I could buy. And I found one about 3, 4 years into it, another one in Central Jersey. So I looked at the practice, the senior dentist there was, he did good quality work. His and my philosophies were about the same. So decided to pursue that option also. And then lastly, about 3, 4 years ago, another dentist approached me that she was looking to sell her practice and move to upstate New York. So then I had the third opportunity to actually buy a practice, meaning just the charts and the equipment, but not the physical location. So that was another blessing. Like I said, Allah closed one door and opened up, 3 different opportunities. And I'm, alhamdulillah, have 2 offices right now, which I'm quite content with. And then we can, continue the discussion further.
Jazakallah. No, as you can see from these stories, there's a diversity in the experiences that people can have in healthcare. Dr. Irfan Al-Din, what are the non-clinical jobs that are in a healthcare business? You've grown yours from a single office to multiple offices. What other types of people do you need to successfully run your office?
I guess I try to think of the people in the practice and then I get their positions down. My brother actually is the administrator of the entire practice, and I'm grateful that he's managing that because it's not easy with all these different states and different entities as well as offices, almost 20 in number between the surgical centers and the offices. But so you need to have some administrator or some overall chief administrative officer. Then my son-in-law Hanan, is the CFO, so he's managing all the finances, because when you have all of these different locations, each has its own tax implications, registrations with the state, the IRS, and then dealings as well with different other surgeons and different providers. And then you need managers. You have managers for New York, I think of Richard, Roger. Then you need somebody with you all the time. Somebody is a medical assistant, so that when you see the patient, you do the injection of the surgery, you have to have somebody to help you write the prescription so you can move to the next patient. Then you need schedulers. I think of Diana, I have Cholo there. And then I think of also schedules like Carmen. She schedules the patients for the surgeries. Otherwise, they'll be all over the place. And then you have to have a very good front desk person like Alora. And I think of Bilal Bhai, he does the insurance verifications, because we see that how quickly this medical environment the insurance has changed. One day they have insurance, the next day they don't. So you need somebody who's good on that. Then I know Zulfikar Bhai, he's an attorney, and he does the medical records. The medical records obviously is essential to keeping our licenses in good standing and our standing as well. Since he's an attorney, he can talk to other attorneys to say, look, Dr. Al likes to treat patients who have car accidents, personal injury, workers' comp. We can work together. So it helps to have an attorney there. And then you need pre-certification. You need somebody to scribe if you want to see more patients. Then if you have somebody who can write notes for you, like we have Qasim Bajwa, he is excellent in that. He writes the notes and he knows the guidelines that this one can get a transforaminal block, but this one can only get radio frequency. And he has the guidelines for those to know what to put into the note. And then you also need quality insurance, Khalid Maqsood Bhai and Khalid Adin as well, to get pre-certification. So maintenance for all the facilities, you need that as well. Cleaning. There are a lot of different areas that people can go into and assist in medicine without being medical personnel themselves.
No, that's excellent. And I think that drives home the point that just because you're a non-clinician does not mean that you're not an integral part of the healthcare team. My practices, we've got about 25 employees, and we just had an in-service yesterday with all the employees together. And we've got, insurance, front desk, clinical staff, maintenance. So you've got a diversity of people in this avenue.
And
Now,
Biller, don't forget Biller. Biller's the one that keeps us going.
Yeah, you won't get paid if you don't have a biller. So, one of the things that I want to touch upon is that a lot of people are probably seeing that there's a lot of consolidation in the healthcare industry. hospitals are merging, private practices are being bought over by other people. And I went through that process, and I had, kind of built up a practice for about 10 years. And I felt like, this was a good time where I thought the practice itself was peaking. Not that I was peaking, but that the practices, numbers and everything, how busy it was peaking. And so when I was approached by a friend of mine to try to, merge or sell to a larger corporation, I looked through that whole process. I studied the private equity company that was doing it, and fortunately for me, it worked out. Meaning they allowed me to keep my practice, work in my practice, keep everything clinically the same. And so I was able to do everything that I could, before the merger. Um, Dr. Malik, what are your thoughts about private equity? Now, obviously, there are some sour things that can go wrong. In general, what are your thoughts about, we get into healthcare for a certain reason. What do you see about the encroachment of private equity and corporations into medicine?
Right. So, Alhamdulillah, your experience with private equity went really well. We in our practice are going through that painful process as we speak. So what happened to me was I joined a friend of mine who's the president of our group, who's an orthopedic spine surgeon. The group itself is exceptionally busy. And so a private equity firm approached us to see if they could partner with us and wanted to purchase the management agreement of our group. So our management, we had, say, a 12% overhead that we used to share to manage our own practice. So our senior partner ends up selling the management part of the practice to this private equity, pockets the money which was shared, which, we later find out, and I'll tell you what happened, was supposed to be shared by all of us, but was not. And eventually, the private equity people found out, and there was a clause in the contract which said that if anybody is in breach of the two parties, you have the ability to gain access and control of the entity. So one fine evening, I get a phone call that, Dr. So-and-so is no longer part of the practice. And I'm like, what? I came to Dallas to join his group because he's my friend. And I come to find out that there were some egregious, things which had happened, and the private equity partners were not happy. They exercised a poison pill and kicked him out of the group, and all of a sudden acquired, basically the working partnership, majority ownership of the group. And, that created a dilemma for me because a friend of mine who, obviously I thought was a friend was working in good faith was kicked out. A lot of monies exchanged hands, monies which are supposed to be shared with the partnership but were never shared. And so now the private equity is running the show and is wanting to be more equitable to all the other partners. So this saga is currently playing itself
Right.
as we speak, and I don't have an update yet. But
So
like
maybe on
you
a
and I
future
spoke
webinar,
earlier,
we'll get
yeah,
the
so
update.
I can petition everybody for their prayers that this has a happy
Right.
ending, and
Yes.
maybe we can do a separate webinar on this.
Jazakallah.
So, the lesson of the story is that be very careful who you partner with, even your friends, who you consider your friends, when it comes to money, will do things that you in good conscience would never think of doing, or we in good conscience would never think of doing. But these things will happen in businesses. And many a times I found now unbeknownst to me, that for the last 3 years, a lot of inconsistencies, less than ethical, let me just say, behavior was going on. Referrals were being, improperly partitioned. And I realized that all of this would have never come to my notice if something like this had not happened.
Right.
And so what comes of it, only God knows. But because I'm in the middle of this saga, I currently don't have a ending to report, just like you do, Asad Bhai.
No, Jazakallah for sharing that, because it is a cautionary tale. Private equity is basically, private money that comes in, for the audience, that comes in, spends lots of money acquiring a practice in the hopes of making it more efficient and making a return for their investors. So it's a very different feel from the solo practitioner. So Asad Bhai, if you can talk to us a little bit about kind of what your practice philosophy is and how you've run your practices, and how you balance the business and the clinical side of your entity.
Yeah, no, Jazakallah. One thing I would say that, as I'd mentioned, you can be an associate or you can own your practice. Now, each has its own advantages depending on your personality and what you're looking for in life. Some people just want, don't want the headache of a business, just want to go work like the 9 to 5 hours, and then that's it. Go in the next day, do the same, and that's it. I initially was, in that camp, but then as circumstances would have me kind of, start my own. And now having owned a practice and bought a practice, I can say for my personality, I think owning a practice makes a lot more sense than being an associate. But again, it's for everyone's, personality. Now, ownership, obviously, you control the most important part, which I consider is you own the philosophy of the practice or the patient care. The practice I was working for before, he was an older dentist, so his treatment facility, treatment of the patients was a little different than what I was accustomed to or what I wanted my patients to experience. So I think owning a practice gives you that autonomy that you can run the practice however you want in terms of, patient care, most importantly, and then, the hours, how you want to market the practice, what staff you hire, and just the work ethic of the practice. The other thing that I would say, is that culture that exists in some practices, and you mentioned, private equity, a lot of these DSO or, dental support organizations which are buying up practices. I feel their philosophy is different. It's more, they're coming at it more from a business point of view, which, is fine. I prefer the patient care aspect more. So if there's going to be a conflict between a business decision versus patient care, I would, side with the patient care part of the equation. And then obviously, financially, there's more upside if you own a practice, you're building equity into it, as we had been discussing, private equity is looking to buy dental practices, medical practices. So if you spent, like you have said, 10 years of your life growing a practice, that can be sold versus if you're an associate for 10 years, then that, you know, revenue isn't
The
there, or that
equity.
equity is not there, exactly. And then also owning a practice, you can leverage the associates that work for you, the hygienists that work for you. There are many tax advantages to owning a business, business deductions versus if you're an associate. So I think that's the main thing. And I'm looking, I haven't, looked into selling the practice yet, but that's definitely something, to consider in the future as more and more private equity is getting into, purchasing dental offices.
So a couple of questions from our audience are coming in, and I'd love to get anyone's thoughts on this. One is, if you are a non-clinician, non-physician, non-dentist, and you want to start a healthcare business, what are your thoughts on what type of healthcare business would be something that could support, maybe your clinical practice in the future or other practices in the future? What are your thoughts on, how can someone get started in this type of industry? Irfan Bhai, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. I think any of these areas a non-clinical person can get involved as long as they have the easier one is if they have a physician with them. Because if you have a good rapport with a physician, you can take them to great heights. I know many physicians who are maybe very middle of the road, even big pain management doctors, but still making the 300 to 400,000 range, and now they're multimillionaires because of the business person who came in, who had a lot of contacts, knew a lot of attorneys, and then they referred them many patients for personal injury, car accidents, and workers' comp, and they took them to another level. So the non-medical person has a very strong role, whether it's an urgent care center, whether it is a surgical center, and the other one is because they have the contacts and they can build the practice from the level 2, 3 up to the level 9, 10. And the others, they may also have contacts in the state. I mean, you think third most corrupt state in America is New York, second is Illinois, and number one is Jersey, and three of us are here from Jersey. But it's interesting. But this is because it's not what you know; it's who you know. And that's where the non-medical person comes in. They may know people in the state, whether it's Trenton or Newark in Jersey or Albany, New York, and wherever the state is, Sacramento in California, they know the right people. They can take the physician to a much higher level by opening new facilities and get them in a process that may take 5 or 6 years. If a physician did it himself, they could do it maybe 6 months or less.
Yeah, what I would add is, now with technology and AI, it is really revolutionizing where medicine is going. Not necessarily just the practice of medicine, but the overall patient experience. I mean, I go to have my blood drawn. I don't have to meet anyone. I go there and use a kiosk and register. And the first interaction I have with the person is someone who's actually drawing my blood. Um, with dental offices, they have AI chatbots now. You can call, I can call my friend's office at 10 o'clock at night, and I will be talking to an AI chatbot who can schedule an appointment for me. If you're into technology, this is a great space to get involved with because there's so many applications of technology and AI in this, apart from just clinical care. There is insurance. Insurance is, the deathbed of a lot of physicians because it is so difficult. We have so many roadblocks to overcome, and you can use AI to get verifications, to submit claims, to process claims, and so forth. Do if you're looking to start some sort of healthcare business is first of all understand the whole spectrum of a business, of the whole industry, and see where your expertise may be, kind of modified, and you can help either a physician or some sort of business, elevate themselves with your expertise.
Yeah, one more thing I would add to that is, from the dental point of view, if someone has expertise in medical billing, if they can do medical billing for dental offices, I think that's an area where a lot of potential exists for dentists. I mean, just giving yourself as an example, oral surgery, a lot of the wisdom teeth extractions or implants, that can be billed through the medical insurances, but a lot of dental offices are not equipped for that. So if a person could, kind of bridge that gap between medical insurance and dental procedures, that I think could really elevate a practice, and that would be a very valuable person to have on the team.
I think one
Yep.
thing that I would add is that what Ahmed Chaudhry Bhai was saying, EMRs in the hospital and the offices, most of the times are not linked with one another. So because a lot of our work gets done in a hospital, we take care of a patient, see somebody in the office, the patient ends up being in an emergency room, stuff is done, images are procured, and the patient gets discharged. They come to see the surgeon 2 weeks later, and we don't know what happened because one EMR does not, or one electronic medical record system of one hospital system does not speak to another hospital system. And likewise, one office hospital EMR does not speak to another office EMR. So, I've had this discussion with, multiple people who have an interest in IT, especially my son, Sajio. And we keep talking that if somebody could figure out a way of putting all this information either on a card. So you leave the hospital, you're given this card, could be, the code stored in your driver's license, your ID card. You take it with you, and wherever you go, you have it with you. You come into the office, you put that card in your computer. It could be something else. And everything that was done pops up. So there's no duplication, and everybody's on the same page. And the amazing thing is that, in this day and age where AI and computing has gone to such a degree, we just don't have the ability for these systems to talk to one another. And I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah. One of the couple of questions have come up about capital requirements for starting a healthcare business. So Irfan Bhai, Asad Bhai, can you talk about, how much does it take to start, say, a single office, and how easy or hard is it to procure that type of funding?
I think it's definitely quite expensive, and that's one of the reasons why we've seen in the year 2012, 60% of all practices in medicine that were private practice. That number in 2024 has dropped to 39%. And then Dr. Amar was correct. The COVID was one hit, but the hit before that was perhaps the Obamacare, which caused with the rates coming down, it forced us to consolidate. But I would say easily 300,000 to 400,000 or $500,000 in the Jersey area, the Northeast and California, and maybe it's cheaper down south and so on. But at least to start, and it depends what kind of practice you have. Dr. Saab is a neurosurgeon; it's going to be a lot higher. Pain management is in between. Internal medicine may be a little bit cheaper, but that's the kind of numbers you're looking at.
Yeah, and from the dental practice, I would say about the same thing. Dr. Fan mentioned, I would say about $400,000. But the problem nowadays is, the average dental student is graduating with so much debt that it's hard to, spend another or borrow another 400,000 to open a practice, which again, day one has no revenue. It's going to take 3, 4 years to build that up. So that's why you're seeing the shift more towards, DSOs where they're buying up practices, and then the new graduates are just joining the practices versus investing all that money and taking on that risk of a new practice. But yeah, I would say about 300,000, 400,000 at least. And I mean, you still can get healthcare loans pretty easily, but I think we're seeing fewer of those as the years go by.
Someone had asked about if I am just a hospitalist and I want to start a pediatric practice, how much capital is needed, and how do you look for an appropriate location where you can thrive? So I'll take that one. When I was looking to open up a practice, I did do demographic studies to see what was the need of an oral surgeon in this particular location. And you can have companies that can run those type of reports for you. Then I did some just on the ground stuff. I called up oral surgeons and asked, how long until your next opening? And when they said 2 months for a consult, you kind of get a good idea that this is a place that needs oral surgeons. So anyone can do that type of, on the ground research themselves, but you can also utilize, other companies. And it is very important to look at the demographics of an area to make sure that it is a place that actually needs the specialty that you're in. Anything else to add on how you pick a location or how you pick a place that someone can thrive?
I mean, I think that's a very good point in looking at the need. If we're doing Khidmat Chalk and we may go into Newark or we'll go to Vauxhall or Patterson, Elizabeth, areas that are indigent, there to help the people. The need may be great, but then again, if 80% of the patients are on Medicare, Medicaid, and the last 20% are on charity care, is going to be tough to make ends meet, even though the need is there. Then you may be in an area like Short Hills or Mendham and Deal, and there's people have 7-figure incomes and 8-figure incomes. The need may be less, but then the patients have Aetna, Cigna, top plans of the Aetna, Cigna, Blue Cross, Oxford United, and you may need to see only a few patients to make ends meet. So I think maybe you have to look at what you're out. If you're doing khidmat al, you go to the poor area. If you're looking for a revenue, you look at the areas where the patients have good insurances, because then you can see fewer patients, and then you can actually spend and still make more money, and then give more chanda and benefit the Jamaat that way.
And you can do both.
That's right. That's the best. Both.
Right. So one thing I want to touch upon is, how do you build a team with a shared vision? You said earlier, Dr. Asad, that you need to have a practice philosophy. How do you instill that practice philosophy in a group of individuals that might have different backgrounds, and that you want to share in that practice philosophy?
Yeah, I think first, initially, when you're interviewing someone for the position, I think it's really important to have a good sense of that person before you even, hire the person. With me, fortunately, I've been lucky that, all my employees have been very good and on the same page as I have in terms of patient care. I mean, initially, my front desk person, she's been with me for, good 20 years. She started a year or so after I opened the practice. I had another employee who was working for me, and she had referred, a colleague that she worked with and said, this is Dr. Chaudhry. He opened a new practice. He's looking for someone. So I think that philosophy is very important, because if the team is not on that same page, then it's going to be hard, and the patients see that. Just to give an example, I had one employee who had that philosophy but was kind of not 100% on the same page, and patients did realize that, because they would come up to me or the other office manager and asked about this employee who no longer is with me, that we had a sense that she wasn't in the same page as all all the other staff members were. So I think when you interview them, that's great, and also you want to share your philosophy with the person you're interviewing, and also give them for 6 months or so, see if it works out. If you feel, look, this person is kind of pulling me back, and that's not how we want to build the practice or what we have vision for the patients, then time to get a new employee.
Right. Yeah, there's a saying, hire slow, fire fast. Meaning, if take your time in hiring, but once you see someone is kind of holding the practice back, has bad is not helping the practice, it's quicker, better to get rid of them quickly rather than kind of waiting and waiting. Dr. Amir, there's a question here that a person is a physical therapist in California, trained in Pakistan, and they want to build a network and build credibility within the local healthcare community. How do you network in healthcare?
I'm not that familiar with physical therapy per se, but I would say, for somebody who is new to the system, it's probably best to be employed for a short period of time, either in a big healthcare system that has a big physical therapy group, where you will pick not only a lot of patients, but through your good practice, you will make friends among physicians. Like, for us as spine surgeons or neurosurgeons, we are very heavily dependent on good physical therapy at the hospitals and in the outpatient setting. I actually have, names and phone numbers of the good physical therapists that I feel comfortable sending patients to, because 50% of good surgical outcome is good postoperative care. So if a physical therapist shows that, and a lot of physicians see that over a period of time, that physical therapists can easily develop a network that then they can take and either develop an independent physical therapy place and start small, but it will allow them to grow over a period of time.
And
Jazakallah.
I'm a
Yeah, go ahead.
physiatrist. So as a physiatrist, physical medicine, rehabilitation, we work with physical therapists all the time. You have to look at your jurisdiction. In some states, the physical therapists can do evaluations. So the best thing is you go to the flea market, you go to the malls, you go to the health fairs, and set up a stall. And patients say, "Oh, I have low back pain." You start teaching them some McKenzie exercises. You have some ultrasound, some stimulation, and some galvanic, and you treat them. And then they say, "Oh, this is great." And then they call you in. "Oh, I want you to treat my family. Oh, one of my brother-in-law, he owns his own clinic. You want to come over there?" Another one is another way they can market is with the chiropractors, because the chiropractors can adjust. They can employ physical therapists, but they want the physical therapists to bring in patients with the extremity, knee, shoulder, or ankle pain, and then they treat the spine, the back, and the neck. So the chiropractor is another good way for the physical therapist to expand. Another is acupuncture. The acupuncture is always, they have the patients there as well. They have pain. After they do the acupuncture, they often do therapy, or often they do the therapy and do the acupuncture at the end. So these are different ways the physical therapist can expand, is through these allied professionals.
Jazakallah. No, that's very helpful. One last question we'll take here, and then I think we'll start wrapping this up. Is a person asked, if an Ahmadi businessman wants to start a lab business, similar to Quest Diagnostics or LabCorp, what are there any Jamaat resources or partnership opportunities with potential physicians? How would you, what would you advise someone like that?
Irfan Bhai, I think you should tackle that.
Yeah, I mean, because we have the lab with the opioids and the benzodiazepines, because it's part of pain management. I guess the first thing to do is to get in contact and see which is the best state to set it up. Certain states have a much higher revenue than others. And then you can license in other states, but keep that home state the one that has the higher revenue. This is, I think, smart business. So you can get many, many states, but you have to pick the one that will get you good revenue. And then you work with the different other pain management doctors, and of course the internists. They're going to order a lot of labs. The endocrinologists order a lot of labs. You have all the hormonal workups, blood, but you have different urine, blood, and different genetic testing is a big one now as well. And that's how you expand that way.
Jazakallah. No, so I think, Jazakallah to all of our panelists. I think this was very engaging dialogue. Obviously, it only touches a little tip of the iceberg because healthcare is so diverse. And when you throw business in there, it becomes even a larger entity. So, we tried to just cover a few things, especially answer the questions of the people who were on the chat and, had questions for us. So, hopefully we answered some of those. And inshallah, we'll have more of these dialogues because the Jamaat is a great resource. We have a lot of physicians, a lot of surgeons, a lot of dentists in this field. And it's certainly something that we should try to help each other out wherever we can. And I think making contacts is so important, whether it's at Jalsa or Ijtima or something else. Making those contacts in those locations is a prime place to build that intra-Ahmadi commerce. So with that, I would request a missionary Mali Sab to please lead us in concluding dua, and then we'll conclude our program.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So first of all, I like to thank all of you, all the panelists, and again, National Secretary Sanat Tijarat, mashallah, and as well his all team members, mashallah, they are creating awareness among the members. So it is very helpful for manifold way. So with uh, with this, it will be very helpful for future building the network among the Ahmadi doctors and other, businessmen. So it will be very, very useful. So may God bless you all. So please join me in dua. Bismillah. Ameen. Allahumma ameen. Ya Rabbul Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam.
Wa alaikum assalam wa
Assalamu
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
alaikum.
Alaikum.